everybody. I'm Ryan. Welcome to Family Friday, a show on marriage by design.
Hi, I'm Andrea Warnock.
I'm Nathan Warnock.
Welcome to Family Friday. This is a show we do every Friday to talk about God's design for family and how we raise our kids. So you just met our daughter, Ryan, and she's going to be the focus of the show today. But
Oh boy.
But before we get into that, we want to talk about what the culture of our channel is.
Right, so Marriage by Design is only in its second week now, so we thought we would just give you an idea of what our channel is going to be all about and kind of keep reiterating that over the first few weeks of shows. So really, our channel is about four main things. We want to be steeped in the Word of God in all things. We want to be led by the Holy Spirit in topic and discussion. We want to be transparent with you guys about our lives. And also, we want this to be an interactive program. We want your feedback. We want your discussion. If there's something you disagree with, if there's something you'd like to hear more of, if there's something you'd like to hear less of, we would love your comments down below. If you're watching us on YouTube, if you're listening on podcast, shoot us an email or get at us on social media. All that information will be at the end of this video so you can reach out to us. But we want that interactivity between us.
Great. So we're going to talk about Ryan today.
So tell us a little bit about Ryan.
Ryan is our second born. She's our only girl of 4. So she gets to be only girl. And actually, funny thing, when I was pregnant with our 4th, she kept saying that I really wanted another girl. And she kept saying she didn't want a girl. And I thought that was kind of funny. I thought for sure she'd want another sister. And it wasn't until one of my friends told me, she had told my friend, well, I don't want another girl because I want to be the only girl. So just funny things that little kids think of, you know?
Yeah.
But so Ryan is all girl. She's so girly and I love it. She wants to wear dresses or skirts almost every day. She's into all into having nail polish on and having her hair done and bows and just anything girly. She's girly.
Princess.
But she also does the boy stuff, with the boys. So
she's outnumbered.
Right. So she can get dirty and she enjoys, she doesn't really enjoy sport things. But she enjoys playing, their more dude-centered pretend things and games.
She'll grow into the sports.
Yeah. And she is a little lover. She loves to snuggle the people that she loves and really just kind of get close to them. She's also really good at building you up. So she's one, she frequently says to me, "Oh, Mom, you're just so beautiful," or "You're the greatest mom." And it's random. It's not like when I've done something that she really loves, she just will randomly say that or come up and hug me randomly and say, "Oh, I just love you." So she's got all the feels inside of her and she wants to let those out and let people know how she feels. I love that she's our only girl and she's very girly.
Yes, she is.
She loves dress up and princesses and
sure.
And she loves baby dolls and Barbies and all that. And actually, she has said in the past quite a few times that she wants to be a mom when she's older. Mm-hmm. And there was a conversation I had with her recently. We were talking about being a mom, and I was like, "Ryan, do you want to be a mom when you grow up?" Because she's always said she does. And she goes, "No, I'm going to be a princess when I grow up." That's totally Ryan.
That's right.
So I don't know, anything I left off?
So Ryan's 5.
Yes.
So what are some things that, maybe she's in process right now?
Well, I feel like we just got over her terrible twos in a way.
At 5.
Yeah, at 5. Yeah, she's very emotional, and that was really hard for her to rein in some, and so that lasted quite a long time, and I feel like we've really gotten over that hump of her emotions overtaking her all the time. And that's a hard one for you. Yes. She genuinely, praise the Lord, wants to be obedient.
Yeah.
And so the times where she is, it's just because the times where she's disobedient, it's because she gets caught up with the other kids, or she gets, that's usually it. She gets caught up with the other kids and can get led astray.
Right.
She's a follower, and we need leaders and we need followers. And she can be a follower into some naughty things sometimes.
Sure. So you may be asking yourself, why do I care about who your daughter is and what she's doing? Right. Well, the series that we're doing this month is really on our kids, but not just to tell you about our kids. What we really want to do is talk to you about how the Lord's used each of our children uniquely to show us, one, things about ourselves, two, things about parenting in general, and then in addition to that, we're also kind of sharing something that the Lord's put on our heart for us to pray over that particular child as their parent. And the reason we want to share this with you is, one, it serves a purpose of being transparent with you guys and giving you a look into who we are and what our life looks like. But also, I'm willing to bet if you have any children at all, one of our children will sound similar to one of your children, and you may be like, man, I feel like we're dealing with some of those same issues that you guys are dealing with, and I feel like I've learned some of those same lessons that you guys have learned. Or maybe you're expecting, or maybe you just have a baby at home. So this may give you a little bit of an idea of what to expect, and hopefully you can learn some of those lessons from the Lord that maybe it took us a while to learn. So that's really the purpose behind this. So the way this episode's going to work is we're going to just go back and forth and share a couple of things that the Lord's shown us about ourselves as we've raised Ryan specifically, a couple of things that the Lord's shown us about parenting as we've raised Ryan, and then we'll talk about kind of the verse that we're praying over her as she gets older in this stage of life. So, babe, why don't you kick us off?
The first thing I have that I've learned about myself from parenting Ryan is she's very girly, and I love that I learned more about the Lord by being a mom because we are children of the Lord, and so our relationship with our children is an imperfect reflection of God's relationship with us. So I learned so much more about the Lord and His heart for us by being a mom. And so one thing that I've learned is that my girly qualities are a delight to the Lord. Ryan is so girly, and those qualities are vastly different from my boys. But they're such a delight to me. I love them. I love that they're so uniquely hers, and they're very feminine, and it's delightful. Even when it's overwhelming sometimes, because the emotions can be overwhelming for her and they can then overwhelm me. There can be a delight in that and a joy in that because it's so just her. And so I've learned that then God delights in my femininity and how I was created so uniquely different from guys as a reflection of who He is, and that he finds joy in that.
Yeah, I don't think it's by coincidence that the Bible refers to us as Christians as children of God. Because in a fallen and sinful world, I think sometimes the closest look we can get to the way humans were designed to be is by watching particularly younger children. Right? I mean, they dance and they're not ashamed. They would just as soon not wear clothing a lot of the time and run around, and they don't think a single thing of it, right? It's just, here I am, right? And they love unconditionally. I mean, it's you're right. I mean, and all those things are reflected in her. That's great. Yeah. Really, really good.
What would you say you've learned about yourself from Ryan?
So the first thing that I've learned about myself is that I was definitely not prepared to be the father of a girl.
Hmm.
So I am one of 5, as far as my family growing up. I'm the oldest, and we had me, and then 3 boys, and then finally, right on the tail end, a precious little girl. And her and I, my sister and I, are a little over 10 years separated. The 2 of us. Is it that many?
I think 12.
Oh man, so many years. And so, for the most part, by the time she was even school age, because I kind of was out of the house early just through life circumstances in my growing up. And so I never really got to have much relationship with her in her younger years, unfortunately. And her and I have a pretty good relationship now, praise the Lord. But those growing up years, I didn't get a lot of exposure to how little girls act and how they're raised and how they interact with those around them. And I've realized with Ryan that I was not prepared to be the father of a daughter. And so as she started growing up and I started realizing, man, I knew it was going to be different from raising Jackson, from raising a boy, but I didn't know it was going to be this different.
Yeah.
And so what the Lord has really poured into me about that is, remember that you didn't create Ryan. I created Ryan. So if you want to know who Ryan is, it's great that you pursue her, but it'd be better that you pursue me.
Yeah, that's
because
really good.
As you pursue me, I will give you the promptings you need, the words that you need to really pursue her heart. And that's been a growing process for me because, well, for a reason that we'll get to here in a second. But for me, the first one is I was not prepared to be the father of a daughter. And so I've been really on a master's course of learning to rely on the Lord to show me how I can best love her as her father as she gets older. So that's my first one.
You do a great job.
Thanks, baby. Thanks.
My second one would be probably one of the biggest changes in my life. After I had Ryan, I knew my calling was to be a stay-at-home mom. And it took her to know it. I don't know why exactly, but almost the moment she was born, I knew I can't do this full-time work thing anymore. I have to be a stay-at-home mom. So that's what I learned. That's the biggest thing that I learned from her is God's true calling on my life in this season of my life is to full-time be home with these kids. And sometimes I feel like, God, I wish my calling was not this. But it is a huge blessing. I get to spend my days with these little people who see the world in a much more rosy colored glasses fashion than I do, and it's great because I get to see it that way too. And I'm so grateful that she came along and that God really changed my heart really in an instant for staying at home and raising my kids at home full time.
So bonus question about that. As moms may be watching this right now or listening to this and going, man, how did you know that was what you were being called to do? One, so that's the first one, is how did you know that? What was the process you walked through with that? And then 2, was it a scary thing for you?
How did I know? I can't really explain very well how I knew, other than I knew. That sounds really silly, but it was almost, for me, it was clearly hearing the Lord say that I need to stay home, and then some confirmations of that. But there was also fear for me in not doing that. So I had this fear of, if I continue working full-time outside the home, fear is maybe not the right word. I just know that's not right for me. And so it was this knowing I could not continue to walk in that because I just knew.
Okay.
And then what was the second part of your question?
Was it scary?
Was it scary? Heck yes. I felt like I don't have the skills to be a stay-at-home mom. I was even nervous about about just the everyday. What do I do all day with these kids? And then the scary part too is I'm losing my income,
Right.
and benefits and all that sort of stuff.
Right, and I had recently left the legal practice. I'm an attorney by education. I had recently left the law firm I was working with at the time to start a janitorial business with my parents. And so I had just started a new business, so our income from that business was great, and a ton of it is commission based, right? And so, it was the income side of it, I know, was scary for you.
It was, because we had just gone through this big transition with his career and his income, and now we're looking at totally taking away my income for the most part. And it was scary, but I knew that God was calling me to this. And again, I had confirmation of that. And so I knew if this is God's plan, he'll take care of it. And while it was scary, I had a lot of confidence in the Lord, and I still do, that he's got it. We've got to work hard. We can't just sit back and expect the Lord to take care of us while we sit around and do nothing. We've got to work hard, but God will bless that.
Yeah, that's right.
And he'll take care of us. Our needs are never going to go unmet, and they never have. They've never gone unmet.
That's right.
So it was scary in a lot of different ways. Monetarily, just in, am I enough for these kids? Can I do this? What the heck am I going to do all day? All those sorts of things.
We met a guy back in, we went to a fundraising dinner one evening. We happened to run into a guy, and it was shortly either before or after we had gone from my working at the law firm to starting this new venture. And we were talking to him, and it
was a very short conversation.
Yeah, very short conversation, just kind of in passing. But he had mentioned that he has 6 children, and he sells insurance, which is entirely commission-based. And I remember we asked him, how did you do that? Like, are you ever scared of that? And the response he gave to me is one that we've really internalized and keep coming back to. And basically what he said is, no, I recognize that God gave me these children, but they're ultimately his children, so he's going to have to figure out a way to feed them. And we both chuckled, but walking away we thought, you know what, he's right. I mean, we oftentimes as parents do want to hold our children like my children. Well, they're really not your children. Right. I mean, you did the easy part, right? But God's the one that gave you that specific child. And we've got to hold our children out before him with open hands, recognizing that we just steward them for a season, but they're ultimately God's children.
That was providence in so many ways. Yeah. To have that short conversation with that guy, because we've come back to that so many times. That's spawned a lot of conversation and depth for us. That was so much providence.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and I don't even remember his name. So if you're ever watching this video and you're a guy that remembers instructing these 2 wet behind the ears newish parents that were considering her quitting,
then thank you from the bottom of our hearts.
Yeah, absolutely.
And thanks for your trust in the Lord, because that inspired us.
Yeah, that's right. Okay. So second thing that the Lord has taught you about you. Oh, yeah, that was it, right? So it's back to me.
Back to you.
Okay, perfect. So this ties in well to my first one. My first one was I was totally not unprepared to be the father of a daughter. My second one is I struggle with being a lazy parent. And I almost spilled the beans on this when I was talking about my first point, because one of the things that I have realized about myself is I like fathering boys because it's not really that hard for me to raise them. Like, I understand what makes a boy tick, and they're all different, right? Certainly all 3 of our boys are very different. But I understand at a pretty deep level what makes a boy think, how they operate, what kinds of things they like, what they don't like, what they think about, and I can pursue that pretty easily. Not so with Ryan. It takes work on my behalf. And what I realized is at first when I went, oh man, Lord, I feel like I'm unprepared to be a father because I don't know what to do. I kind of felt like he said, no, I kind of feel like you're unprepared to be a father of daughters because you don't want to put in the work. And that was hard for me for a while. And now as Ryan's gotten older and I've seen her kind of blossom into a little girl and all that, it's become easier for me. But yeah, that is something I struggle with, is not wanting to put in the work to really learn who she is and love her. And I think sometimes as parents we can fall into that, right? Here's what you do with a child, you do it. And you don't necessarily take the time to really pursue this child at a really deep level. So I don't want to be a lazy parent anymore, but that's something that parenting Ryan has taught me about me. So let's transition to things that we've learned about parenting in general from parenting Ryan.
One thing that I've learned from in being a parent is that love and discipline cannot be the same for all children. So she needs to be loved very differently than Jackson needs to be loved. She needs to be disciplined differently than Jackson needs to be disciplined. If I try to apply the love and discipline to Ryan that I used for Jackson, it doesn't mean anything to her. Some things are the same, but for the most part, there are different people that have different needs.
Yeah.
And I have to tailor my love and discipline to her. And I can't just copy paste.
That's good.
And that can be hard because I'd love to copy paste.
Sure.
But she's very different. Yeah. What about you?
That's good. So for me, what I've learned is perfection isn't required to be a good parent. You know, I talked a little bit last week about that one of the things I've learned from Jackson is that kids are resilient. Another thing I've learned is that you don't have to do fathering perfectly to be a great dad. And sometimes striving to be the perfect dad is actually a hindrance to being a good dad, because you can get so clamped up in I don't want to do it wrong that you just get stuck in not doing anything at all. Because you sort of take the Hippocratic oath, first do no harm. That's not how parenting works. You know, one thing we've learned from some of the things we've been involved with is it doesn't matter what we do, we're going to hurt our kids. Unintentionally, most of us. Right? I mean, some intentionally, tragically, but for the most part, unintentionally. And here's the crazy thing. We usually parent our children in a way to not hurt them the way our parents hurt us. And then, ironically, we hurt them in some other way.
Swing the pendulum the other way, yeah.
Right? And so, recognizing as a parent that I'm a flawed human being, I cannot do it perfectly, gives me the freedom to love her to the best of my ability as unto the Lord, trust him, right, to fill in the gaps, and apologize to her or Jackson or Riker or Lincoln when I need to, and move on trying to be a dad the best that I possibly can. So we can get stuck trying to be perfect. We're not perfect, right? As parents, none of us are. And you know what? That's okay. Right. God will fill in the gaps for that.
Yeah, we do a lot of praying that where we fail, that our kids would trust the Lord for him to fill in the gaps of that hurt and not carry that with them.
Yeah, that's right.
My second one for what I've learned about parenting from Ryan is that children are a blessing. And I don't mean that I didn't realize this before Ryan, but once Ryan was born, so many things went into realizing that children are a blessing from the Lord. When Nathan and I were married for 6 or 7 years, whatever that ended up being, and Jackson was about to, is when he almost left the family. And if you listen to Marriage Monday, you'll hear our story. But he was very clear that he never wanted any more children. And most of that was because we were in a terrible spot in our marriage.
Mm-hmm.
And it didn't even look like our marriage was going to continue. But he was very clear. He never wanted any more children. And I grieved the loss of more children. And that was hard for me. But I kind of wrapped my head around it at some point and accepted that a little bit. But then as we came back together and our marriage began to go to a lot better place, and we really put the Lord as the center of our marriage, we started talking about maybe having more children, because we certainly didn't want to bring kids into what we had. We started talking about more children, and that was such a joy to know that we're in a place that we can have more children. And so having Ryan was this person that exemplified the redemption that God can give to us. And that right. Children are such a blessing. They're such a blessing from the Lord because of all that they are. But she was a extra special blessing. Yeah. Because it was just such a change of course for us, and it was only because of the Lord. And so a lot of what I learned from parenting from her specifically is that children are a blessing, and to see children as a blessing. Yeah. It's not like I see that every day. It's not like I operate in that every day. I sometimes see kids as an annoyance or whatever. But Psalm 127, 3-5 says, "Behold, children are a gift of the Lord. The fruit of the womb is a reward. Like arrows in the hand of a warrior, so are the children of one's youth. How blessed is the man whose quiver is full of them. They will not be ashamed when they speak with their enemies in the gate." And God has given us a full quiver because He's entrusted us with them. And I feel so honored that God entrusts us with these children. And Ryan was like the beginning of feeling like we should be entrusted with children. Yeah. And so such a blessing. All of our kids, of course, Jackson is a blessing, but I didn't realize how blessed we are by our kids until Ryan came along. And then I started realizing all these kids are enormous blessings that we get to steward and then send out.
That's right. It's good. So good. For me, the second thing that I've learned about parenting as a result of having Ryan in my life is that I need to be a student of her heart. And for me, that's a difference between girls and boys. Not that we shouldn't be pursuing deeper relationship with our boys, but let's just face it, guys. Girls and boys are different. Yes. They just are. And we can try and explain that away or change the rules or whatever. The reality of the matter is boys and girls are created differently. And we know that when we look around us. I mean, well, it's not 100%. An overwhelming majority of guys sort of are just, this is who I am. Right? I mean, guy relationships they're pretty simple. We meet each other. You kind of throw it out there. Here's what I am. Here's what I do. And you know pretty quick if I'm going to like that guy, if we're going to get along, if we're jiving or not. Right? And it's really the same thing. Like when a girl meets a guy, a lot of times we kind of throw it out there and you know pretty quick who the guy is, what he's about. Women are a well that runs deep. And this is biblically supported in 1 Peter 3:7. Peter's addressing the husband and wife relationship, and he says, "Likewise, husbands, live with your wives in an understanding way." That phrase, understanding way, implies being a student of your wife. And that is the primary woman in our lives as men that we're called to be a student of, to really study, to dig into that deep well, recognizing that the person that Andrea is today isn't going to be the same as the person that Andrea is 5 years from now, and it's not the same person as Andrea was 5 years
Praise
ago.
the Lord.
And so as I study her, it's a never-ending process because I get to know who she is and then she changes. Well, when you're talking about a daughter, that's times 1,000,000. I mean, Ryan's not the same person 5 minutes ago that she is right now, and 5 minutes from now, she won't be that same person either. I mean, she's growing and learning so much about the world, and so for me to really learn to be a student of my little girl is something I learned about parenting, and it's really, we've had boys after Ryan, and while I still try to do that even with them, she's the one that it stands out to me of really be a student of my daughter. So if you have a daughter, carve out time to be a student of her, to ask probing questions. You are way less likely to get a one-word answer with your little girl than you are with your little boys. And we go around the dinner table and we'll ask a question, and Jackson's like, "What'd you do today?" "Good." "I didn't ask you a good question. Like, what did you do today?" And I might get a couple sentences out of him. Sometimes he's a flood of things, right?
Definitely.
But Ryan's always a flood, right? There's always things she wants to talk about. And it's amazing as I get to learn more about who she is. So
It's
be
funny.
a student of your daughter.
A funny story. I went on a very long bike ride with Jackson and Ryan recently. We went 18 miles. And Ryan was in the little trailer, bike trailer behind me, and Jackson was riding his own bike. And I heard every 20 seconds, "Mama." And then she would say something to me. And then we might talk about it for a while. And then we didn't go longer than probably 20 seconds. And she would say, "Mama," and then something more. I learned so much about the things that she finds interesting and what goes through her head on that bike ride than I have any other time.
Amazing. So, babe, what are you praying over our daughter right now?
Psalm 31:30 is what I've prayed from the beginning, and will probably continue to pray, but over her. But it says, "Charm is deceitful and beauty is vain, but a woman that fears the Lord is to be praised." And gosh, I really hope that she believes in that as she grows older too. That it's not beauty that's important. It's not her personality or being likable or anything like that. It's the fear of the Lord that's to be praised in her.
That's right.
That's to really be the core of who she is, that she fears the Lord. And I pray that over her a lot.
That's great. Really good. For me, kind of similarly, I took a verse from Psalm 45, verses 10 and 11. And specifically, this is from the New Living Translation, because I really like the way it says this. But it says, "Listen to me, O royal daughter. Take to heart what I say. Forget your people and your family far away, for your royal husband delights in your beauty. Honor him, for he is your Lord." Like, man, in today's society, when you are under attack almost immediately as a woman to make sure you look exactly the way society says a woman should look, to from the very beginning recognize that for Ryan, but also for you as a woman watching this video, you are royal blood as a follower of Jesus Christ. You are a princess. And the way he looks at you is with adoration and beauty. And I want her to understand that from a young age, that it doesn't matter what TV or whatever says you should look like. What matters is what your king, your, true love, Jesus, thinks of you. And that ties into the second verse I pray over her, which is 1 Samuel 16:7, the kind of the latter half of 7. And it says, "For the Lord sees not as man sees. Man looks on the outward appearance, but the Lord looks on the heart." And I want her to grow up remembering the Lord looks at her inward beauty before he looks at her outward beauty. And that inward beauty would be something that would be glorifying to him. Right?
Great.
Awesome.
Love it.
Guys, thanks so much for joining us. Tomorrow or next week, we're going to be talking about our third child, Riker. and then we'll talk about the newest addition to our family, Lincoln, on the last week of the month. Hope you can join us for those. Guys, feel free to check us out on any of our other videos that we've got starting. We got the diary tomorrow, Marriage Monday, and all the rest starting next week. Love to have you check them out. Thanks. Have a great weekend.
Hey, thanks for joining us on Marriage by Design. If you were impacted by this video, like it by hitting the thumbs up below. Also, don't forget to subscribe, and once you subscribe, hit the bell icon so you can be notified when new episodes release.
Excellent. Also, one of the huge pillars of our show is interactivity between us and you. So we would love you to comment down in the comments below if you have thoughts about this video, or if you have questions or other things you'd like to see considered in the future. In addition, if you'd like, you can email us. That's marriagebydesignpodcast@gmail.com. We're also on Instagram @marriagebydesignpodcast, or you can find us on Facebook by searching Marriage by Design Podcast. Finally, if you want to, you can tweet at us. We do have a Twitter account that is @MarriageXDesign. Thanks, and have a great day.
Hehehehe